In Hawaiian mythology, the Menehune are said to be an ancient race of people, small in stature, who lived in Hawaii before the settlers arrived from Polynesia. Many scholars attribute ancient structures found on the Hawaiian Islands to the Menehune. However, others have argued that the legends of the Menehune are a post-European contact mythology and that no such race existed. So, were the Menehune actually a lost tribe of little people inhabiting the Hawaiian Islands, or are they just legend and myths spread through generations of storytellers? As we sit back and ponder, let's grab our chips and our coffee and delve a little bit further. The mythology of the Menehune is as old as the beginnings of Polynesian history. When the first Polynesians arrived in Hawaii, they found dams, fish ponds, roads, and even temples, all said to have been built by the Menehune, who were superior craftspeople. Some of these structures still exist, and the highly skilled craftsmanship is evident. According to legend, each Menehune was a master of certain craft, and had one special function they accomplished with great precision and expertise. They would set out at dusk to build something in one night, and if this wasn't achieved, it would be abandoned. The crucial point here, though, is to know if there is enough evidence to prove that an earlier society lived on the Hawaiian Islands before the arrival of the Polynesian colonists. Archaeologists and anthropologists say no. According to most scholars, the Menehune legends only reflect what we know about ancient Hawaii, that they were two waves of colonization, a few hundred years apart from different parts of the Pacific, rather than proving that an ancient race lived there previous to the arrival of the first colonists. Earlier artifacts found in the Hawaiian Islands have been dated to 300 AD, marking the first date of the first colonization wave. If the second wave of colonists arrived to Hawaii around 800 AD, for sure they must have been surprised to find that someone else had already been there. The Menehune legends might have been a convenient way to explain the presence of the descendants of a previous colonial expedition, and whatever works they might have constructed. Furthermore, in those islands where the survivors of the first colonization had already died, these legends were a way to explain the fish ponds, breakwaters, and shrines the new colonists encountered, which proved that they weren't the first ones to take up residence on Hawaii to them. Most interesting, legends about little people are common to many Polynesian cultures. This indicates that the origin of such tales preceded the colonization of Hawaii, and that it was the tales that traveled with the colonist, and not the colonist who started the tales once in Hawaii. The development has become paradigm as recent evidence has given strength to the legend of the Menehune ancient race by changing its place of origin. On the island of Flores in Indonesia, from where many of the first Hawaiian colonists came, there is paleontological evidence for Homo floresiensis, a small-bodied hominin proportionately equivalent to a child of the current era. The evidence indicates that these hominins coexisted with Homo sapiens for some millennia on the island of Flores. The extensive mythology of the Hawaiian Menehune may have its origin traced to this early coexistence on the island of Flores, particularly since hominins such as Homo floresiensis, a subspecies of Homo sapiens, may have undergone endemic dwarfism owing to their formative heritage on isolated island locations. Some scholars, such as folklorist Catherine Luomala, theorize that the Menehune were the first settlers of Hawaii, descendants of the Marquesas Islanders, who were believed to have first occupied the Hawaiian Islands from around 0 to 350 AD. When the Tahitian invasion occurred in about 1100 AD, the first settlers were subdued by the Tahitians, who referred to the inhabitants as Menehune, which means lowly people or low social status, and not diminutive in stature. They fled to the mountains and later came to be called Menehune. Proponents of this theory point to an 1820 census which listed 65 people as Menehune. Luomala claims that the Menehune are not mentioned in pre-contact mythology, and therefore the name does not refer to an ancient race of people. However, this argument holds little weight as most accounts of the past were passed down through word of mouth from one generation to the next. If Luomala and other scholars in her camp are correct, there was no ancient race of skilled craftspeople that predated the Polynesians. Then there must be an alternative explanation for the ancient constructions of advanced design, which predated any known population in Hawaii. However, no alternative explanations exist, and most history books still maintain that the Polynesians were the first inhabitants of Hawaii, some 1500 years ago. So, let's examine some of the ancient constructions that have been attributed to the Menehune in the mythology of the region. Alikoko Fish Pond, sometimes called the Menehune Fish Pond, is one of the finest examples of ancient Hawaiian aquaculture. Please forgive me if I butcher some of these names. The fish pond is a lava rock wall between the pond and the Hulea River, which is 900 feet long and 5 feet high, and it was built to create a dam across a portion of the river in order to trap young fish until they grew large enough to consume. The stones that were used come from Makaweli village, some 25 miles away. It is considered to be an unexplained engineering achievement and was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1973. Hawaiian legend states that the pond was built in one night by the Menehune, who formed an assembly line from the fish pond location to Makaweli, passing stones one by one from start to endpoint. The Menehune were promised no one would watch them at work, which was carried out after dark. However, one night, two royal siblings snuck up and watched the thousands of Menehune at work, only to fall asleep. At sunrise, the Menehune discovered them and turned them into twin stone pillars that can be seen today in the mountains above the fish pond. Interrupted by the sun, the Menehune left two gaps in the fish pond wall. Many generations later, Chinese settlers filled the gaps to raise mullet, but the stonework that closed the gap was far inferior to that of the mystical Menehune. Necker Island is part of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. Few signs of long-term human habitation have been found there. However, the island contains 52 archaeological sites with 33 ceremonial heiau, basalt upright stones, believed to be celestially oriented, and stone artifacts much like those found on the main Hawaiian Islands. The heiau vary only slightly in design, but generally feature rectangular platforms, quartz, and upright stones. One of the largest of these ceremonial sites measures 18.6 meters by 8.2 meters. 11 upright stones of what are believed to be the original 19 are still standing. Many anthropologists believe that the island was a ceremonial and religious site. According to the myths and legends of the people of Kauai, which lies to the southeast, Necker Island was the last known refuge for the Menehune. According to the legend, the Menehune settled on Necker after being chased off of Kauai by the stronger Polynesians, and subsequently built the various stone structures there. Visits to the island are said to have started a few hundred years after the main Hawaiian Islands were inhabited, and ended a few hundred years before European contact. Kikiaola is a historic irrigation ditch located near Waimea on the island of Kauai. Also known as the Menehune Ditch, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places on November 16, 1984. Hawaiians built many stone-lined ditches to irrigate ponds for growing taro, but very rarely employed dressed stone to line ditches. The 120 finely cut basalt rocks that line about 200 feet of the outer wall of the Menehune Ditch make it not just exceptional, but the acme of stone-faced ditches, in the words of archaeologist Wendell C. Bennett. It is purported to have been built by the Menehune. To date, no human skeletal remains of a physically small race of people have ever been found on Kauai or any other Hawaiian islands. While this does not disprove that a race of small people existed, it does draw the truth behind the legend into question. Nevertheless, there is compelling evidence, both archaeological and in the numerous legends passed down over generations, that suggests that there was indeed an ancient race of highly skilled people who inhabited the Hawaiian Islands long before the Polynesians arrived. If you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a like, and maybe subscribe if you'd like to, and join us Monday for another The Unknown Files here on Unknown Territory.